Guys, you are joining in for another Okiru podcast. Today we are going through the next blog. This is a personal blog that I wrote the beginning of this year in March, called Finding Purpose. This is a pretty personal blog. I kind of embrace being vulnerable, because by allowing others to see certain parts of us, depending on the person as well, we have to choose who we share those specific things to. They can, find strength in being vulnerable, because most of my life I found being vulnerable was a weakness, and not being able to share those things, certain things, it was hard to accept it. But once you begin to accept it for yourself and you're able to share those things with others, there's strength in that. So there's strength in your weaknesses, there's strength in knowing your vulnerabilities, and I'll be going through that in this blog post. And I guess to start off the podcast with one of our quotes that is like a hybrid of other people's quotes, is have the courage to be disliked and have the strength to transcend who you think you are and become better, because we can always become better every single day. We can always grow. Being satisfied with who we are is like I see as being a bit complacent, because you don't see anything necessary to improve. And that's why I think just becoming better, having that mindset of choosing to become better whenever you can, that is most important. So, to begin with, there's no blueprint for life. I may live one way, you may live another. It doesn't make one better or worse than the other. But how does one find purpose in life? How can I live a fulfilled and meaningful one? I can only speak from my experience and learnings. By no means whatever information and stories I share will lead to your purpose, but this is how I found mine. I hope you can find value, and hope through my experiences I'm still on my own journey, and this is just a piece of my story. The struggle of being lost. A few years ago, I was going through a difficult time in life. I was lost in all aspects. I was in a dark place with little hope. It got to a point where I was endangering myself, and every moment was a gamble for when this internal bomb would explode. But that's not the point. The point is I had this expectation for my life, and when it didn't turn out as expected, the easy way out seemed like the best option. The only option at that time. The journey struggle brought me to the lowest point in my life, but it revealed my true character as a person. All my life, I blamed, complained, and justified every excuse and failure. I victimized myself. All my life, I was surrounded by disbelief, and my life looked like it was set for failure. Personal success seemed impossible. It wasn't until I flipped the script. Instead of playing the victim, I took responsibility. I took ownership. This took time to develop, but it began with a decision to want something more for my life and be better than yesterday. When you make that decision, the transition and transformation won't happen immediately. I needed to understand that this would take time, and overnight success was never going to happen. Being in the struggle and having made that decision, the goal was to better me daily, and sometimes winning was too far of a stretch. I just needed to decide every day I wasn't going to quit. regardless of the outcomes. The struggle was an internal war every second. It was about making the decisions to feed the good and feed positivity in my life. I was so consumed in supplementing the sadness and depression that I allowed those thoughts to overwhelm me. It was just effortless. It was comfortable. It became an addiction. Diluting my mind with good energy and positive vibes was uncomfortable, but the more I fed my mind with that energy, it slowly restored my faith and hope. The struggle was the beginning of my journey in finding my purpose. It was the beginning of a character and mindset development that would then lead me on a path to finding my purpose. Without the struggle, my character was never tested. I needed to look inward. The problem did not lie in my circumstances. It was my views and beliefs. As the saying goes, fix the root, not the fruit. There was a deeper problem within me that required attention, and that is where education and exploration were necessary. Flipping the script. Now that I opened my view on the struggle and chose to see good and be grateful, I must continue on my path to find my purpose. Educating myself and exploring was essential. Initially, I fed my mind with motivational speeches and podcasts daily to inspire and build that hope in me. I then sought out reading material that focused on self-development, from communication, relationships, and habit development. These materials made the hope and inspiration within, and I reprogrammed my thinking because of these things. Educating myself through building my character and understanding my views and values, learning about communication techniques and habits of successful people gave me the confidence that it was all right to be where I was. The fact I had taken the initiative to allow myself to switch my current thinking level, these small actions put me to a step closer to better myself. Now that I had the tools to educate myself, I began introspection and exploring myself on a level I never thought of. Using meditation techniques, creative expression, and other methods, I began to discover a whole different way of living from the one I was taught and once knew. When focusing on the things you find value in and listening to your body, mind, and spirit with intentionality, there's a greater sense of clarity in what it is you are searching for. I developed a personal value system, or whatever you like to call it, which I would live my life. Listen, understand, accept, love, and curiosity. Following these values, I simplified my life and allowed me to be open to others and new perspectives. Who are you? We have always been programmed to focus on what we wanted to be and not who. Self-education and exploration are the roots we never thought of caring for. It was always the fruit, the result of what we wanted to become. We were never taught to educate the deeper meaning of our life and who we are as people. Our identity has permanently been attached to our titles and professions, and never our character and values. That is something I encourage everyone to deeply think about. When you take time to put significant thought into these things, it can give you that much more clarity in your life. Not only in finding purpose, but also what it means to be who you are. Take a leap of faith. Our views, values, and purpose is always progressing. Change is inevitable for growth, and as you change, so may your values and purpose. Once I gained a bit of perspective on my deeper values and self, I was already in the process of taking action towards the things I always wanted to do. Deep introspection and taking action happened simultaneously, but I decided to look deeper into my life because of the effort. You may have all the knowledge and preparation in the world, but it's just information without action. My dream had always been to create my own clothing brand. All the work and designs I had done were nothing until I decided to take a leap of faith and step towards creating something tangible. I had a few failed attempts in the past, But when Gerald came to me with an idea to start something, I knew at that moment this would become reality. It took months of planning and concepts with no results, but what mattered was we were taking action daily to build something. We just knew we had a dream and we would do whatever it takes to fulfill it. How big is your dream? Unfortunately, life happened and we were hit with personal struggle, our own battles. One thing we knew was the dream was still in front of us. We had each other. Even when we didn't feel like doing the work, even though life kicked us to the ground and continued on kicking, it didn't stop us. It was the action we did every day towards creating the brand that saved us. You see, when the dream is big enough and you want it bad enough, no matter what life throws at you, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are constantly fighting for something greater than yourself, than the life you are living. Vulnerability is honesty. We found purpose by allowing us to be vulnerable. With a dream in front of us and darkness right beside us, one thing we knew is we had each other, plus a handful of trusted friends. It is never easy being vulnerable. Insecurity and feeling of judgment always crept within those thoughts. However, we need to let those thoughts go and become transparent with each other for us to have that hope for success. We were able to understand each other's situations and help others because of it. To become vulnerable with yourself, you become honest with yourself. Without being truly honest with yourself, you don't understand your weaknesses and things you need to improve and work on. Growth comes from being vulnerable because it opens your heart to help and guidance. We found through vulnerability to let people know you're not alone. There's always someone out there willing to give you a helping hand. Sometimes you just need to be vulnerable enough to raise your hand for help. My purpose was developed through various circumstances, situations, and actions throughout my life. I have an idea of what my purpose is right now, and there is a high chance it will change, but that is the beauty of life. If you live life to constantly grow, reflect, and renewing your identity and helping others in whatever way possible, you will always find something to live and fight for. You may not know what your purpose is now. Maybe your purpose is to help others succeed in theirs, but by the time you reach the end, I'm confident you will live a meaningful and fulfilled life. Wow, that was a long blog. I didn't realize how long it was until I started reading it. But this was a very personal story. Obviously there's not a lot of information. It's more about that struggle I went through and where I am now. And just recently I was reflecting on what was life like 5 years ago, and because I'm reading a book now by Tim Grover called Winning, and it made me reflect on what success is for me. And I don't have really many great results, and that's fine, but compared to where I was 5 years ago, it is completely different. Like, I was playing video games for like 10 hours a day, staying up till 3 a.m. playing video games, and then waking up late in the day doing the same thing. Or I'd go gym and play basketball all morning, and then go gym again at night, and then play video games again. I was broke. I didn't have a job. Like, my life was going down the drain, and it was sad. I was sad. I was depressed, and not many people really knew that unless you were super close to me. And I guess that's why we started this brand, because we never want anyone to feel alone, because that's the worst thing. Feeling alone, that loneliness, and feeling depression, that darkness that clouds your life every single day. It feels like you're in a hole, a ditch that you can't get out of, and there's just tiny light at the end. And a friend of mine asked me, are you out of that hole? Do you see the light? And it was a good question to have, but it made me realize that sometimes I guess that being in the hole kind of never really ends, like being in the tunnel and that light, because once you reach it, you never know if there's a tunnel at the end of that light. You don't know how long the light's going to be before another tunnel comes in your life. And it's being able to build your character, build yourself to a point where whether it's sunlight or darkness, you're still the same person. You're building those value systems within you in which you live your life, regardless of the environment, regardless of what circumstances you are currently living in. And honestly, that took a while for me, because it felt like nothing was really happening in my life. Like I graduated in 2018 and I couldn't find a job as a designer, and that's what I wanted to do, right? And it kind of sucked, because then you're getting flack because you're not getting a job, and then you try to do freelance and you're not getting many clients and all this and that. So you resort to finding a job, and it felt like my dream was so far away, because I had to give up on something just so I could survive. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to make those sacrifices for yourself, for the people you love. But eventually, because of Okiru, it saved me, and I know it saved Gerald too, because it gave us a sense of purpose again. Like, I know it's just apparel, it's just clothing, but we want it to be more than that. We're trying to create a movement where we can inspire others, encourage others to pursue a dream, pursue what they really want to do in life, because that's what we're doing now. Our brand grew and is growing in the current circumstances of the world, and it's not easy. It's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have, and it's tested our confidence, it's tested our will, it's tested us in so many ways. But what we always do is we keep that vision in front of us, that there's this, whatever it is we're creating, it's going to be greater than who we are. And if we can just inspire one person or many people, that'll be even greater. But if we can inspire one person to be able to pursue something they really love, without the fear of that regret, that's what we want to feel. Like, we're so happy when we get feedback and people saying, oh, thank you so much, like, I needed to hear this, I need to hear that. It feels good to hear that, because when we talk about experiences and we can relate to others, and we not necessarily give advice, but we just come from a place of understanding, that's the best thing we can do. Is just be there for people. And that was one of my mistakes. I never really listened. I never really was there for anyone, because as a male, it's in our instincts to solve the problems that are around us, even though a problem isn't for us to solve. It's how can we just be supportive of each other, of one another. And the struggle was hard, because there will be times when you feel alone, and it's hard to embrace that feeling of being alone, especially when you're in depressive states or states of sadness or trauma, anything like that. It's difficult, but one thing is necessary. You need to find those people who are genuinely supportive of you, who want you to succeed, who want you to become better. you have to surround yourself with those people, and it may only be 1 or 2 people. It's going to be very few. Don't expect the whole flock of people to have your back. And if you do, I envy you. I really do, because I don't have that. But I know I have the people who I have in my life. You know who you are. And like, I really appreciate the mentors that I have, because they've accelerated my growth journey to levels that I couldn't have done by myself. And I appreciate them. I appreciate those close people, those loved ones that have had my back and supported me and Gerald and our brand throughout this whole process and just our lives. It's the greatest feeling, and it may not seem like it, but we are here for you guys. Like the team we have for our push-up challenge, I am so inspired by them. I really am, because even though I don't know if they know each other, but if one of us was going through a difficult time, they'd be there just saying, we're here for you and we love you. And sometimes that's all we need, just to know someone is there for us and loves us. And it's also important for us to educate ourselves, to learn more. You know, there's going to be 1 form of education or 2 forms or 3 forms of education that we'll receive. What's stopping us from going an extra mile and finding more ways to educate ourselves? Like, I know with this blog specifically, it's a lot of people have taken it the wrong way. And you can't please everyone. And I'm not here to please everyone. I'm not even here to get everyone's acceptance. I'm just here to try to connect with those who can relate with what we're trying to do. And I want to connect with those who want to connect with us. Because, as I said before, it's not easy being alone. And sometimes when people closest to you turn their back on you because of your specific way of thinking, without trying to find complete understanding and clarity, that's the hardest part. So it's best if you try to find clarity. If it's not even try, it's best if you find clarity in yourself. You know what you're doing, you know what you're trying to achieve, you know what your vision is, you know what you're trying to win, why you're trying to win. And if you know that in for yourself, you don't need anyone else's approval, because they don't see the vision you have for yourself. And that's something I had to learn. And that's why I started with that quote earlier, is have the courage to be disliked, because no matter how much good you think you're doing, someone's always going to find something bad or something to criticize about you. It's happened to the best of people, the most successful people. There's always going to be, all the greats have gotten hatred, but it never stopped them, because they knew for themselves what they were trying to win. They knew their character, they knew who they were, and they didn't quit on themselves. Because if you allow others to speak that evil and influence that negativity in your life, you've already lost the battle. But it's always good to listen to them, try to find understanding. But if they don't give you understanding, if they don't try to communicate, that's when it gets hard. Then it's just better off, like, is it even worth your time? So, you know, embrace the struggles in your life. And it's alright to be lost. I'm still young. Like, Joe and I, we're still young guys. Like, we have a lot to experience in life, so we don't know a lot. but we only know from our experiences, and that's what we will share. We're not going to give you anything we haven't experienced or gone past or have been talked about, because that's not for us to say. So we're only doing our best to, I guess, express what we've done, what we've experienced with our life, and hopefully you can find value in that. Hopefully you can find something you can learn, you can adopt to your life. And if there's anything we can do to help you guys, like, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do our best to reach out to others. We'll do our best to get back to you guys. But yeah, just don't be afraid to being lost. That was one thing I was afraid of being lost, and my insecurities always lied about it. I was always lying to myself, nah, I'm not lost, I know where I'm going, this is what I'm gonna do. But I never took action towards that, only until like great chaos and great struggle happened. And you don't have to wait for great struggles to happen for you to find that purpose. Yeah, this was a pretty tough one to write, but it's helped me grow, and I hope you guys can grow too. We want everyone to become better. That's why I added that next part to that quote is transcending who we think we are and become better. I heard this from Joe Rogan. So like, I don't know who said this quote, but it's just something that really struck and resonated with me, because we can always be better. We can always do something to better ourselves, to better others. And don't be afraid of being vulnerable, but know when to reveal that vulnerability. I made the mistake of revealing too much for myself too early, and it just replays in your mind, and you're like, damn it, I shouldn't have done that. But we learn from our mistakes if we evaluate them and we genuinely like critique ourselves in a way that can be progressive and help us progress. And as I said at the end, like, I feel like my purpose right now is this brand and developing the businesses and the different projects that I'm trying to create and helping people. That's the main thing we want to do, is how can we help inspire, and how can we grow together, how can we win together, how can we build relationships together, and how can we always become the best self to be better every single day. I feel like that's my purpose. And sometimes, to be perfectly candid, I'm not perfect. Some days I will slack off, and I'll just like find myself not doing work, and that's me with the lack of discipline, and it kills you, because then you wasted an hour or even a day, and it's like, dang, I should have done something. Those are the worst feelings. So the best thing is to do is realize it, accept it, and just get working again, or review why you didn't take action. You know, it could be there's too much on your plate and you don't know where to start, and it could be stressing you out. But you know, all our situations are different. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I know this was a little long. It was a long blog. It's a little background on myself, and I hope you guys found value in it somehow. I hope you, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, that you're staying safe. We never know what's gonna happen. If you're in Melbourne, like, we're kind of easing out of restrictions, but who knows? No one knows. So embrace every moment, embrace every day. Be grateful for this moment you have right now, and always choose to get up, especially in those times when you just want to give up. Thank you.